Hi, my name is Malachi, and I'm so glad that you are interested in learning more about community solar. If you're watching this right now, I already know that you are a person who cares deeply about our environment and wants to do anything and everything they possibly can to preserve our precious, beautiful Earth, both now and for generations to come. I also know that for most of us, time and money are very precious and very limited commodities, and that it often feels like doing the right thing for our planet demands more of both of them than we have to spare. That is why I'm so excited to share this information with you, because community solar offers a rare and unique opportunity to not only make a substantial and lasting impact on our environment, but also to save potentially thousands of dollars in the process. And all for an investment of $0 and literally less than an hour of your time. Sound too good to be true? I promise you it's not. In this video, there are 4 main things that we are going to cover. Number 1, we're going to explain how this concept of community solar works. Where do the panels go? What happens to the electricity, etc. Number 2, we'll explain how you actually receive credit for the solar power and how you can save money. Third, we want to take you through the main points of a typical community solar agreement, so you know what to expect. Then lastly, we'll talk about a couple reasons why someone might choose not to join a community solar garden. Many times the first question a person asks after I've explained the program is, why doesn't everyone do this? Well, there actually are a couple reasons why community solar might not be a good fit for you right now. And then at the very end, I'll explain the next step to put you in touch with a solar agent in your local area who will fill you in on the real community solar projects happening where you live and get you hooked up. Sound good? Great, let's jump in. So to help me explain how community solar works, I'm going to send you over to my buddy Jordan. He's been working in the energy industry for a number of years now and has worked closely with community solar providers across the country and has helped hundreds of folks get signed up in his home state of Minnesota.
Thanks, Malachi. So the best way to explain how community solar works is to first explain what a community solar garden actually is. Nothing super complicated here, folks. A solar garden or solar farm, same thing, is just a giant field full of solar panels. I'm not going to get into the science of how solar panels themselves work because that would take a long time, and if you're curious, there are plenty of great videos out there on YouTube on the science of photovoltaic technology. So suffice it to say, the sunlight hits the panels, electricity is created, and fed onto the utility grid, where it can be used when you plug in your vacuum cleaner or switch on a light bulb. The solar farms themselves are usually located in more suburban and rural areas, but you'll occasionally see one in the middle of your city or even on the roof of a large commercial property. If you're curious, your solar agent should be able to tell you where some existing farms are located and what locations are planned for the future. But the great thing about community solar is that it doesn't really matter where the farm is located, as long as it's out there soaking up those sun rays. Am I right, Malachi?
That's a great point, Jordan. You see, in the past, if the average residential utility customer wanted to go solar, there are a number of things that they would have to be able to do to accomplish that. First off, they would have to own their own home. Second, they would need to have at least $20,000 to $30,000 or more that they were willing and able to invest in a rooftop solar system. They also need to have enough roof space with an unobstructed view of the southern sky to accommodate the system. And last, but certainly not least, you would have to be willing to put up with all the headaches of maintaining that, keeping snow and debris cleared, climbing the roof periodically to check on things, and dealing with the inevitable leaks that will eventually result from all those new holes in the roof. Not to mention, if the roof ever needs to be replaced, the whole system will have to be removed and then reinstalled. Now don't get me wrong, rooftop solar can be a great investment, but it's just not for everyone. And ultimately, we want everyone to go solar one way or another. With community solar, the panels are installed at a remote location nowhere near your roof. Nothing about how you receive electricity right now changes. You'll receive your electricity exactly the same way. No new wires, no new connections, no new meters, nothing. All of that is handled at the site of the solar garden. A lot of people ask, So what happens to the solar electricity generated at the solar garden? Is that electricity somehow routed to my house? Jordan, could you please help us with this one?
Of course. The answer to that is no. The solar power isn't directed to your house. Once electricity from any source is generated, it is immediately fed onto the grid via power lines and used by businesses and homes at essentially the same instant. The job of the utility is to make sure that enough power is being generated at any given moment to meet the current demand. Of course, demand is higher and lower at different times of day, but these patterns are fairly predictable, and the utility is able to do a pretty good job of making sure there is enough for everyone. The power generated by the solar farm effectively offsets the amount of electricity needed during the day that the utility would otherwise have generated from less environmentally friendly sources.
Okay, that makes sense. So if the solar electricity isn't routed to my house, how does this work then? How is my share of the solar power determined, and how does it get to me?
Right. So the answer is via credits on the electric portion of your utility bill. Let me explain. When you first sign up for Community Solar, the solar company will look at your historical electric usage to determine approximately how much electricity you will use over the course of a year. They will use this information to determine the necessary size of your allocation on the farm. Allocation simply means the percentage of the farm's output that will be assigned to your account. The allocation needs to be large enough to generate about as many units of electricity, called kilowatt hours, as your household consumes each year. This number can vary greatly from customer to customer, depending on factors like the size of your house and your energy consumption habits. For each kilowatt hour produced by your allocation, you will receive a credit on your bill at the current rate determined by your utility. Because the size of your allocation was determined based on your average historical usage, the amount of your credit each month should roughly equal the amount that you owe. Of course, the amount of your credit will vary based on the actual output of the solar farm, and you will be responsible for paying the balance of your bill should there be one. In exchange for these credits being directed to your account, you will receive a separate bill from the Community Solar Company for the power produced by your allocation of the shared solar farm. The rate is charged per kilowatt hour and is typically between 7 and 11% cheaper than the credit rate you receive on your bill. So you save money in the very first months of going solar. And as utility rates continue to increase across the country, the savings will only get even better.
So I'm going to be receiving a bill from my utility and from the solar company?
That's correct. You will be receiving two bills, but the total amount you owe between both of them will always be lower than if you were just paying your utility alone. For example, let's say you receive your electricity bill for May and you owe $118, but your community solar allocation produced a credit of $100. So all you owe your utility for the month of May is $18. Now, assuming the rate charged by your solar farm is, let's say, 9% less than the credit rate, your bill for the solar power would only be $91. So you will have paid $91 plus $18 for a total of $109 instead of the original $118. That's a $9 savings, or about 7.5%.
All right, gotcha. So now that we have covered how community solar works and how I can save money, what are the top 3 things a potential customer should know before they sign up for a community solar garden in their area?
Great question. Let's get into it. So in order to join a community solar garden, you will need to sign a solar agreement. These agreements will be 8 to 10 pages long or possibly more, and while it is a good idea to look it over at least once, a lot of it is just a lot of legal jargon that is not really important. But there are 3 main points that are very important for you to understand fully, so let's go over those really quick. The first is just simply the rate they charge, along with what's called the escalator. So the rate will be charged per kilowatt hour and should be slightly lower than the credit rate offered by your utility. Your solar agent will inform you of both of those current rates. The escalator is the percentage by which your solar rate is guaranteed to increase each year. It should be no more than 2.5% and is designed to simply keep pace with inflation. And since historical electric rates have increased at an average of 6 to 8%, over time you will actually save even more money because you're locking in your rate for the entire length of the agreement term. Which brings us to the second thing you'll need to know, the length of the agreement. Community solar programs typically require a commitment of 20 to 25 years, which is about how long the solar farm will physically last. After that, the panels will not be as efficient and will need to be replaced. Now, 25 years is a very long time, and that's why the third thing that you need to know before signing up is so important. What happens if and when you move? Now, the good news is that if you are only moving a short distance, you can most likely bring the program with you. Just be sure to give your solar company plenty of notice so they can coordinate with your utility to transfer the credits to the new premises. But if you're moving and cannot take it with you, you will need someone to take over the allocation. Your solar agent should explain how this works, as it will vary slightly from company to company and state to state. But in general, community solar agreements are totally transferable, and you have the first right of refusal if you have a friend or family member who would like to take advantage of the program. But if not, there's no reason to worry. The solar company will be happy to locate someone for you, and it should be free to do so as long as you provide proof that you are moving. Nearly all of the community solar farms in existence today are completely sold out with a waiting list of utility customers ready to take over an allocation as soon as it becomes available. But your solar agent will explain how everything works and what is expected on your end. Just make sure to ask if anything is unclear.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan. Those are some really good points. So maybe as we wrap up, could you share any potential reasons why someone might not want to join a community solar program as soon as possible?
Sure thing. So one reason now might not be the best time to sign an agreement is if you are moving or planning to move within the next year or so. Since most solar farms aren't built until they're filled with subscribers, it may be 6 months or more before the garden you're assigned to goes live on the grid. If there's a strong possibility that you could be moving out of state within the next year or two, it may not be worth the hassle just to save a few bucks. So you should really be expecting to stick around for at least a couple of years for it to be worthwhile. The other reason you may not be able to join a solar garden today is that most of them require a credit score over 700. You might ask, wait, why do I need a good credit for a program that saves me money? Well, that's a good question, and the answer lies in the fact that the company building and maintaining the solar garden is totally separate from your utility. And unlike your utility, they don't have the ability to shut off power to delinquent accounts. So in order to protect the community as a whole and keep the solar garden running for everyone, participation is currently limited to utility customers with a good history of paying their bills in a timely manner. But don't despair if your credit isn't quite at that 700 level right now. First thing you can try is to find a cosigner. But if that's not an option, stay tuned to the community solar scene in your area, because as the concept continues to catch on and grow, community solar providers will look for ways to allow those with less than perfect credit to get in on the action. But honestly, that's pretty much it. If you have good credit and don't see yourself leaving your community anytime soon, there's really no good reason not to get signed up just as soon as you possibly can.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, that about does it for what we have for you in this video. I hope you now have a better idea of what community solar is, how it works, and how it potentially could benefit your family, and most certainly benefit our environment. Believe me, there are very few actions you can take that have as dramatic of an effect as going solar. For example, the amount of CO2 emissions that are offset by the average household going solar in just 1 year is the equivalent of planting 153 trees, or driving a car 14,123 miles. And that's only 1 year. Imagine the impact over the next 5, 10, 15 years and beyond. You have a chance right now, by making this one simple change, to save and protect our amazing, beautiful Earth for generations to come. I truly hope you'll join us in taking this step forward together. If you believe that community solar might be a good fit for you and would like to learn how you can get involved as soon as possible, then I want to encourage you to fill out and submit the form below. Then pick an available time slot on the calendar, and a solar agent in your area will give you a call at that time. It's best to pick a time when you have at least 20 to 30 minutes available for your agent to completely explain how the program in your area works and answer all your questions. You'll also want to have a printed copy of a recent utility bill available for reference. You can also click on the link below to check out our frequently asked questions page if you're still a little fuzzy on things. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day.